Good evening and welcome to Phipps Talk. This is going to be a special treat today. It's reason number one, it's a family affair. We have with us today, as usual, we have exciting guests. And with us today we have attorney Numotte Zama and daughter Rebecca Noel Zama. And we're going to explore the talent of Mrs. Rebecca and the guidance provided and the protection provided by her legal counsel, as well as the other things that counsel does for those in our fair city. Rebecca, I'm going to start with you. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks for being available as well to answer some of the questions that we have.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. And I present my greetings to all those who are watching Phipps Talk.
There you go. There you go. Rebecca, one of the reasons that we sort of thought it was interesting to have you share the evening with our guests is you're a talented young lady in many ways. You write poetry and you write songs and sing as well.
Yeah.
Now, I won't put you on the spot and ask you which of those you like best, but maybe we'll ask you later on in the show so you can, let me know what your thoughts are. However, I had a chance to look at some of the poetry you wrote. It was rather intriguing for a young lady of your stature. Let me say that. When I say stature, I'm talking in years. It was rather intuitive and sort of deep, if you will, and it impressed me as a young lady who was very thoughtful. So I'd like to talk to you this evening about your writing skills, capacity, and what sort of makes that interesting for you or exciting, what drives you to it, and then how the poetry part of it evolved, and I'm sure that probably has a little bit to do with your writing for songs. So help me to understand first your love for poetry. What prompted your love for poetry?
Well, when I was younger, one, I love Maya Angelou. When I was little, I used to listen to her, and then also my mom used to take me to poetry readings where I would hear a lot of people read their own poems that were really funny. Sometimes they pretty much range from everything to funny to very as well sad. Mm-hmm. Well, I would sing. So when I was little, I just wrote poems little, I don't know, maybe tacky, that would rhyme, but I wouldn't really think of much of it. But then later on, especially after the earthquake, I was really touched. So it was easy for me to be able to write out my feelings, mm-hmm. almost. So yeah.
So you're referring to the earthquake that occurred in Haiti?
Yeah.
Okay, just in context. You mentioned Maya Angelou. She's an icon in the world of literature.
Yeah.
You said. So would you attribute some of that, or would you say that that depth of perception in terms of writing sort of mirrors some of what you learned as a result of studying or reading Maya Angelou?
Well, in 5th grade, I got to choose a book, and then my teacher recommended that I read Why the Caged Bird Sings. Uh-huh. But I don't really remember much of it, but mm-hmm. I do remember that when I would read it, it was very heartfelt, mm-hmm. and it was also very deep too. It was very moving. Mm-hmm. I don't know, something about her. And then also, I remember she showed us a video of her reading a poem. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I think it was Black History Month. Mm-hmm. So we saw a video of all these people, and then they stopped at Maya Angelou when she was reading one of her poems. And it was also very deep because when you see her, it's almost like a theater. She's acting it out, and you can feel the emotion and everything, and it's beautiful.
Wow. Well, it goes back to, it causes me to have some reflection, but we won't go there right now. Now, when do you write? I mean, because poetry, the mindset is it has to be in a moment, and the moment has to be right, and it just has to flow. When are your moments? When do you write?
For me, I can't really say that I have like a precise moment.
Mhm.
They pretty much come to me like whenever. I mean, I could be watching TV or listening to a piece of music and then something comes to me, or I could be reading a book or looking at a picture and something comes to me. So it's just like, it really depends. Like sometimes I could be reading something and be like, oh, this is nothing. And then all of a sudden at the end I'm like, wait. And then I write a poem. The same thing with me with songwriting. I mean, yesterday I was watching a murder mystery show, and then for some, I don't know how, but I started hearing a melody and words, and that's how I kind of started writing that song.
Yeah, that's called inspiration. That's a good thing. That's really a creative speaks well. Now, in terms of I'm going to switch to mom for a moment, and I say mom, but I say that respectfully. Now, Numotte, you have a very wonderful daughter, charming in many ways.
Thank you.
A tribute to mom's time, talent, grace, and other things. So, I'd like to ask a question. Spending time with her and taking her to poetry readings, that's something I certainly want to encourage anybody who can make the time to be able to do. But it obviously had a very profound effect on Rebecca.
Well, kids are like sponges, I think, in a way. The earlier you expose them to certain, I'll say, effect, or issues or environment, the earlier they kind of adapt, if you will, and really get used to it. I mean, Rebecca has been able to write and read since she was about 2 years old. And the reason it happened, because I had learned a lot, when I was pregnant, with her. I read a lot to her. I read everything that there was supposed to read about pregnancy or raising of children. Yeah. And so I read to her a lot. And when she was very, very little, I continued the habit of reading to her. And the other thing I did was that my house was a mess. It was a mess with books. I spread books, around everywhere in the house. As she was crawling, here she would find a book and stop and look at the picture. There she would find another book and stop, listen to music, So I kind of, cultivated the environment, if you will, for her to go into at least trying to be an intellectual. So I got her a good start, very early. But of course, it goes without saying that she's got to develop, some interest in as she grows up. So her book of poetry, if I can get into that, was inspired in part by the earthquake in Haiti. Although she had been writing a long time before nice poems, but I never really did anything about them. But she loves to read. For a long time, she's loved to read, and this is the effect, or the result of her love for reading.
So I'm going to pass it along to her because I'm going to have some questions, and if you can pass it along to her for me.
Yeah, she's got one. You can
she's got one? Okay.
Yeah, we all have a book.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
The questions I have, and you said it was inspired mostly by the earthquake that has occurred. Now, what is your favorite poem in the book?
I think it's Reach for the Stars.
Now, why would you say that's your favorite? Why is it your favorite?
I like it because, one, I don't remember how I started writing it, but then afterwards I felt really proud of it afterwards, because I felt like it contained a message that other people would be able to hold and then to pass on to others. It's a poem of hope, and it's a poem of kind of that's telling people you can do anything that you want if you really just try. Also, and then that anything is possible.
Well, I'm going to ask you, and I don't know if you can recite it or if you need to read it, but in a minute I'll ask you to share one of those verses with us. The verse that you think carries the greatest part of the message.
Okay.
You can decide what that is in the meantime. Now, Numotte, as it relates to setting up the environment, obviously that took some work, some effort, and working to help build an environment for kids in which to learn. Sometimes does take an effort, does take some thought. Do you feel that your efforts in helping her when she was younger are reasonably rewarded and reflected in the direction she's taking?
Thus far, she's got a very, very long way to go. She's only 12, and I'm hoping and praying, that she'll skip the teenage years where she'll be able to still follow my direction. I'm hoping with the values that I instill in her, that society, the environment that she's been raised in, help her to remain rounded up, if you will. But again, there are a lot of factors, in life. There are a lot of influences there. She can't not live in a vacuum. I wish I could keep her home and
isolate her from all the challenges.
The challenges, but unfortunately, the reality is of life. That's how she is going to learn to grow up, to be who she is supposed to be. So I'd say thus far, I'm very happy with what has been produced. Again, she's got a very, very long way to go. I can only hope and pray that every step of the way that God, will guide her into the right path, help her make the right decision, and also whatever she produces, will be supported and encouraged, if you will, by those who have been lucky enough, if you will, to see the labor of her work.
Well, it's, so far.